I grew up on the Hudson River, so the river was really important to me. I grew up in a town called Cliffside, which our backyard bordered Edgewater, so there was a path in our backyard. So I grew up on the cliffs, so there was a path in our backyard that led down to Edgewater to the Hudson River. The kitchen window the house I grew up in, I would always look out that window at the river, and it always fascinated me. I would see fishermen out there, and I would always pay attention to the high tide, the low tide, what was going on, and it eventually drew me to go down there and check it out. What was happening in the 60s and early 70s, the river was pretty almost dead. We passed the Clean Water Act, and so that was kind of fascinating to me, how the river came back to life. So me and my friends started trekking down to the river with our poles, and we started fishing. And then the striped bass were making a comeback after the Clean Water Act. So we started to see in the mid-'70s, late '70s, the stripers slowly coming back. And the striped bass is kind of like the bald eagle it's sort of an icon of New York City. It's a beautiful fish. Its colorings. So since I was about 12 years old, I've been on a mission to follow the striped bass. So I eventually crossed the river because the Manhattan skyline is right in front of me. So that was always kind of, to go to art school, so I eventually moved to the Lower East Side. So crossing the river was like sort of crossing an ocean, going to School of Visual Arts. I eventually moved to the city around 83, 84, and I opened up the A&P Gallery with my brother. The Lower East Side was a strong cultural magnet that attracted a lot of people for music, poetry, and visual arts. I was at the A&P Gallery for 2 years, and then rent went from $500 to $2,000. So that led me into the homesteading, squatting scene. That's when I moved into Bullet Space on 3rd Street. After the Tompkins Square Park riots, me and Nadia Cohen decided to do an artist book poster project. The theme had to do with housing and shelter, and what was also happening was the AIDS epidemic, and the drug epidemic was getting out of control. The crack cocaine was really affecting the neighborhood. It was sort of the heroin capital of the world. So when I came up with the fishhook symbol, it had a lot to do with the heroin trade, just some sort of symbol of addictions. Besides me growing up fishing or always fishing, it was a strong symbol that I grew up with. The Lower East Side is more of a subterranean, in a psychological level, so as culture, a subterranean culture, an underground. So I kind of played off the hook in that sense. At this time in the mid-'80s to late '80s, besides the Hudson River, it's connected to the East River. So the East River is also coming back to life. The stripers are becoming more present, and there's more and more people fishing the East River. So besides my life in the art world, I sort of joined the kind of East River fisherman crew, and I started to spend a lot of time fishing besides making art. But it was an art form to me to fish, so it was the same thing. So either making art or fishing, or art is life. We live in a world with information overload. We always have a subliminal hook in front of us. They're always trying to sell us something, sugar, sex, our substance abuses, big pharma, big oil, gasoline. We're addicted to something. We're a consumer society. So I started using the nautical symbols more and more in my work. Skyscrapers, the water, the East River, the water surface. So I became very active with fishing the East River. I almost felt like a drug addict because I was addicted to it, just chasing stripers. And we became sort of like, they call them surf rats, people that surf fish. But on the East River, we became dock rats. You fish the edge of light, the street lights, or the shadows off of bridges. So you sort of master, where they're hiding, or that sort of. But I kind of related it to the Lower East Side too, the subterranean landscape, the nightlife, or the cracks in the sidewalk. You get to know your path to work. You get to know your streets. When you think of the subways in rush hour, or everyone going to work or coming back, I would always see them as schools of fish. So I made the relationship to movement of people and movement of fish. It all became one to me. But in my work, when I paint the water surfaces and the ocean surfaces, I kind of play off that power of the tidal charts, or the tides of the river. With New York, the signature of New York, we have strong verticals with our skyscrapers and strong horizontals with our tides. It's almost male and female. So that force, that is kind of interesting. When I paint fish hooks or a water surface, I'm kind of very inspired or interested in this probing the waters, the unknown. And Yeats talks about it, the fabulous formless darkness, the unknown. So when you're fishing, you're sort of, it's the imagination. You're searching for something. So you're constantly probing the waters, probing the imagination, the unknown. So when I go fishing on the East River, I'm not really fishing. It's just, it's a place to meditate.